Okay, so I am starting off with Standard 2, and that is the teacher uses understanding of individual differences and diverse cultures and communities to ensure inclusive learning environments that enable each learner to meet high standards. So, what I did was sort of like a lesson plan and a book list. But what I wanted the class to do was to pick one book off the 10 that are listed, and we'll do one each week, or I don't know, however long it takes for us to learn everything. But we'll pick one book, and the students have the choice of either reading it individually or we can read it as a class together. And then once we're done reading the book, the students will go to their seats and complete a little worksheet or paper, just kind of thinking about what they just read. Let's see if I can click on the... Okay, so I have questions like, what is the main idea of the book? How did it make you feel? What did you like? What did you dislike? What did you learn in this book that you can use in real life? And then once they're done with the paper, we'll just discuss it as a class about their answers. But I really wanted to focus and let the students understand diversity and how to accept it and accept others and to include them. So I believe, well, during this I learned how important it is to educate learners about being different, whether that be from their living situation, their sexuality, their culture, their skin color, and their mental capabilities, that we need to include them and be kind because we're all different in our own little way. So I just wanted to kind of implement that into them at a young age, so that way when they get older they won't have such a hard transition when they meet people when they're older and they're different from them. Okay, so I believe that this makes me competent because, I know this makes me competent because I'm willing to give them the tools and teach them right from wrong, and, well, not necessarily right from wrong, but how to interact with people that are not like them. Okay. Okay, so my next one is the Standard 3. And it says the teacher works with others to create environments that support individual and collaborative learning and that encourage positive social interaction, active engagement in learning, and self-motivation. So I created a classroom layout of how I want the classroom to flow. And so this would encourage, like, their individual desks that they'll be doing most of their classroom work in. That will encourage individual development, and collaborative development would encourage a student table where they can work on projects like book reports or a science project or just stations. And the kidney table in particular is both for individual and collaborative learning. I kind of wanted to target both of those types of learning for those kids because I wanted to make it so children that are absent or need the extra help have a place to go to. So like if two kids are absent one day, they can go back there and have a helper work with them, or I can work with them, or they could have a student back there that'll help them. So, let's see here. And so, the reading area that I made encourages self-motivation, because they have all sorts of bookshelves that they can go to read all sorts of books. And this demonstrates my competence through the focus of the literary center on individual learning stations and group learning stations. I've also added a direct learning station, the kidney table, for those that do well in group settings but are still not at the same par as others. Okay, and then I also included some pictures of what I would want my learning area to look like. So there's the bookshelf that I was talking to you about, and then they have seats where they can group up together and talk to each other about stuff, like books that they're reading, or they can just sit there individually and catch up on their reading. Oh shoot, I forgot my therapist. Okay. I forgot this from the one before, but the Bandura social learning theory correlates with my artifact. It hits on the standard listed by the residual statement being that peers, guardians, and teachers have a direct effect on learning outcomes. Okay. So for my third standard, my third artifact, I picked standard 4. I did the teacher understands the central concepts, tools of inquiry, and structures of discipline he or she teaches, and creates learning experiences that make these aspects of discipline accessible and meaningful for learners to assure mastery of the content. So I wanted to teach the students of the moon cycles and what is the word for it? The moon cycle and the eclipses. So I created a lesson plan of what we would be doing to assure mastery. So I created all kinds of things to make sure that they have it under their belt. For this one, I decided to do like an Oreo experiment, just something fun that they could use to remember the different phases of the moon. So for like the new moon, they wouldn't take off any part of an Oreo. The waxing crescent, they would take off a little bit. So it just goes on and on. It gives them a visual of what they'd be looking at. I also included, it's not working. Okay. It's a demonstration that I'll be working with them in the room, but there will be a lamp with no shade on it, and we'll have a little ball on a stick, and we'll shut the lights out, and I'll be moving around the lamp, and then you can see all sorts of phases of the moon. What else? I have a worksheet for them that talks about the eclipses and the types of eclipses that happen, and oh shoot. Come on now. And then just something assessing what they just learned, making sure that they understand. And then right here, I use the solar eclipse that just happened in August as an example, but I talk about why it's dangerous to look at solar eclipses when they happen. So I have like a little project for the kids to do, and they can use a box to be able to see the eclipse happen without harming their eyes. And this goes with the Bowlby attachment theory. It reflects the standard due to the need for my students to feel that I myself know content and I am guiding them in a positive way. Okay. Next I have Standard 6. The teacher understands and uses multiple methods of assessment to engage learners in their own growth, to monitor learner process, and to guide the teachers and learners' decision making. So, for my artifact, I created a lesson plan, and I wanted to make sure that I could monitor their growth, but in order to do that, I wanted to assess where they first started out at. So I decided to make a pre-quiz and a post-quiz. Oh shoot, not on there anymore. Well, the pre-quiz, it's not for a grade, I just want to assess where they're at. So, but I did end up putting that in an Excel sheet. It's just to see where they're at. And next, after the pre-quiz, I'll see where they're at, and then I can venture off from there, because I definitely don't want to recap too much and go over things that they already know. So this is a worksheet that they will complete, so they can master all that, and then I'll grade that. And it's important that they understand why it's important to learn it. So I created a word problem for them that they will eventually use in life. For example, Danny spent his summer doing chores around the house. Each week he received an allowance for his hard work. It is now time for Danny to count his money. Danny counted his first week's earnings, and then I have it in expanded form. Next, he counted his second week's earnings, and that's also in expanded form. So the students will have to add all that together and figure out which week he earned less money. And then right here is where I will be assessing the students. So the pre-quiz, not really for a grade, but you know. And then the oral participation is a part of the grade. I just want to make sure that I know how far they're going in class and if they understand it. And then the worksheet I'll grade, and then the quiz, when we're all finished learning everything, they'll be taking that. And this is also important for me, so that way I can learn what I need to work on as a teacher, what I can do differently if it doesn't turn out the way that I intended it to. And this goes with scaffolding. So you will learn off of what you already know, and you can use other students or your peers to help you. And for my last artifact, it is Standard 9. The teacher engages in ongoing professional learning and uses evidence to continually evaluate his or her practice, particularly the effects of his or her choices and actions on others, and adapt learners, families, other professionals, and the community, and adapts practice to meet the needs of each other. Okay. Okay, so I have listed below books that I would like to read while I'm in the profession. I think it's important for me as a teacher to learn different perspectives and to implement that into the classroom, or just as a professional working with other professionals. And then I have like a little self-evaluation that I made, and it's for, or just an evaluation in general. It's for myself. It's parent, guardian, teacher conferences, teacher-teacher conferences, employer-teacher conferences, professional conferences. So I'll be checking up on my students' parents. How can I do better with that? How can I communicate better with that? Or professional conferences. Maybe I need to update my technology skills. What else could I do? Teacher-teacher conferences. Are we all, as a grade, are we all on the same page together? Are we moving? Is someone ahead? Is someone behind? In the teaching, not necessarily like are they're if they know the content. And then a self-evaluation is just how my personal goals, am I achieving them? What can I do better? Things of that nature. And then this goes with the Montessori theory. It describes the needs. They pay attention to individual child's need and when developing their minds. Keeping a development plan for each child and emphasizes I can't talk today. To the student that they must be active learners with some independent learning to give a well-rounded learning environment that is not always leaving a teacher as a crutch for a student to lean on to learn. Development of an individual solely based on goals or standards met by self or teaching is much more rewarding and develops great skills to have later on. And I believe that I am competent in this because I am reaching to do better for myself as a professional, whether that be through having my boss help me, boss or principal or administrator help me progress as a professional. And I'm done.